लिबाने कुतः घोषञ्चाविति सर्वतो ब्रजपुरे खेदै महा
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda and all glories to the Prabhupada Disciples Association, Hare Krishna Society, which was started in 2002 by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. And he had some insight back then of how to organize, just like Prabhupada, and we're going to read today, later in the opening monologue, again, the constitution of ISKCON, a more formal look at it, all printed out, and get some insights into purpose, what the purpose of Prabhupada's mission was, and what our purpose is to follow in his footsteps. So I wanted to, before we started, I wanted to mention that we're looking for more people to join us in our broadcasts, of course. Now, we could say, oh, well, let them come. But generally, people don't just volunteer themselves to take up spiritual life seriously. They have to be encouraged. So, not this week, but in the coming weeks, we're going to have a campaign to get subscriptions. We have to look at that as a service for everybody to increase the number of members that come, that subscribe to our channel. So subscriptions is a very valuable way to spread Krishna consciousness because of what we do. And simultaneously, we're planning to open a 24-hour streaming service. Hare Krishna Society 24-hour streaming service, which will have all kinds of transcendental information for serious people that are interested in spiritual advancement. So those two things, and in order to get that going, like some people think, oh, you just open it and it'll work. No, it doesn't. You have to work at it. So that's marketing. And the idea of our group is, and maybe you all have heard of this principle of network marketing. Have you heard that? Network marketing. What you do is you go to your warm market, the people that you know, and you recruit them. And they, in network marketing, I went through this nonsense. in my early years of business. You go 1 and then you get 5. So you recruit 5 key people, and those 5 key people recruit 5 people, and guess what you have? You have 26 people. So if we have 20 people doing the same thing, that's 26 times 20, that gives us 500 more people. And then you try to grow, that's an approximate number, you try to grow your downline, it's called, of influence. And all of you, all of us, we have circles of influence. We can't just sit back and be narcissistic. Oh, it's just about me. No, it's about everybody. And the devotee of the Lord, he has compassion on other living entities because he sees the suffering state of humanity. And the only solution is Krishna consciousness. And especially nowadays, we see how much suffering is going on. It's quite startling to see the news on the fires in Los Angeles. That's a major, it's the second largest city in the world. And it's burning down to the ground. I saw recently too, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, there's a warning there'll be a tsunami possibly hit the West Coast. And then a earthquake. Can you imagine if the earth collapses into the ocean, that there's a tsunami, that there's fire storms? It's going to reveal to everybody that no one is safe in this material world. It's Krishna is the destroyer of the 3 worlds. And at any moment, due to karmic reaction, the whole thing could collapse. And it's interesting to see that. I wanted to read a section from Nectar of Devotion. The qualities of Krishna further explained. And it's number 51, changeless. Go ahead. All these wonderful qualities of Krishna. And remember, we're 78% parts and parcels. We have this part of Krishna in us. We're qualitatively equal, but not quantitatively. So Krishna is further explains that in changeless, Krishna does not change his constitutional position, not even when he appears in this material world, which is what we're subjected to. Constant change. Prabhupada Ram Raghava uses the term ephemeral. Everything is in a change situation. Ordinary living entities have their constitutional spiritual positions covered. So we don't see that we're Satchit Ananda. We see Asat, Achit, Nirananda. Not Satchit Ananda. They appear in different bodies, and under the different bodily concepts of life, they act. But Krishna does not change his body. He appears in his own body and is therefore not affected by the modes of material nature, which is all of us. We're under the control of the material nature, unless we take shelter of the bona fide spiritual master, and he can elevate us out of this entanglement. In the first canto, 11th chapter, 24th verse of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it is stated that the special prerogative of the Supreme Controller is that he is not at all affected by the modes of nature, but we are. The practical example of this is that the devotees who are under the protection of the Lord are also not affected by material nature. See, that's the specific requirement to get out of the material world. So Prabhupada, by the grace of Rupa Goswami and A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, His Divine Grace, we're getting an answer to the problem of material conditioning. To overcome the influence of material nature is very difficult. No kidding. It's hard to get out of this maya that we're in. But the devotees or the saintly persons who are under the protection of the Lord are not affected. So you can rise up through the performance of bhakti yoga devotional service. So what need is there to speak of the Lord himself? To be more clear, although the Lord sometimes appears in the material world, he has nothing to do with the modes of material nature, and he acts with full independence in his transcendental position. That is the special quality of the Lord. So Prabhupada's teachings that he's giving us are specifically directed towards rising above the modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and becoming situated on the transcendental platform of bhakti yoga, service to the spiritual master, which is the remedy for all difficulty in this material world. It's that simple. It's not complicated. Simple for the simple, very difficult for the crooked. And we know who they are. And they are misleading people, and there is karma for that, I must say. We're going to move forward to the readings from the diaries of Śrīla Prabhupāda. I wanted to get back to that. I was working since 8:30 with Ram Raghava, and thank you, Prabhu, for being so diligent in this effort. Very important that people take this seriously. Don't be an armchair quarterback. Get in the game. So here we have Certificate of Incorporation of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Inc. Now, we did read it, Joe Felice. We did read it last week, but it was a handwritten statement. And here, we're going to go over this again because it's so valuable, because this is the formal document that Prabhupada finally confirmed as the working document for spreading the movement, moving into the future. Now, we should also be mindful as I read this of all the deviant behavior that's gone on amongst these so-called leaders from the ISKCON group who have deviated from these principles that Prabhupada has outlined in this document. A very important document. Okay, so it's the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Inc., pursuant to the Religious Corporation Law of the State of New York. We, the undersigned, for the purpose of forming a corporation pursuant to the Religious Corporation Law of the State of New York, do hereby make subscribed and acknowledge this certificate as follows. Perfect. First, the name of the corporation shall be International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Inc. It's very important to note the name, exactly how Prabhupada created the name. Second, the purpose for which not Hindu society like Gopal created in Calgary to ship money over to India. The purpose of which the corporation is organized are, one, or A, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all peoples in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and achieve real unity and peace in the world. And this is part of the problem for these catastrophic things that are going on. And Krishna does not tolerate these offenses to all his living entities. To propagate the consciousness of Krishna as revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in these books that Śrīla Prabhupāda has given us, not changed books. C, to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, and to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large, so we're compassionate, that each soul is part and parcel of quality of Godhead Krishna. This is real welfare work, not opening hospitals for removing cataracts. To teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy name, God as revealed in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And recently we saw that some devotees in New Jersey were told, don't go out on Sankirtan. Don't go out and chant. It makes us look bad. To erect for the members and for society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Godhead. F, to bring the members closely together for the purpose of teaching a simpler and more natural way of life. And G, with a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. Third, the corporation shall have the power, either directly or indirectly, either alone or in conjunction or cooperation with others, to do any and all lawful acts and things, and to engage in all other lawful activities, which may be necessary, useful, suitable, desirable, or proper for the furtherance, accomplishment, fostering, or attainment of any or all of the purposes for which the organization is organized, and to aid or assist other organizations whose activities are as such as to further accomplish, foster, or attain any of such purposes, notwithstanding anything here to the contrary. The corporation shall exercise only such powers as are in furtherance of the exempt purposes of the organizations set forth in section 501C of the Internal Revenue Code and its regulations as the same now exist, or as they may be hereafter amended from time to time. So these legal jargon, as you know, when you've had multiple corporations, there are standard clauses. Prabhupada's added the clauses to suit how he wanted it to be presented, but it gives a legal explanation of how to operate a corporation, which became, by the way, $1 billion corporation. Fourth, the corporation is not organized for profit, and no part of the net earnings of the corporation shall inure to the benefit of any private shareholder or individual. That's been very distorted since Prabhupada's departure. In the event of the liquidation or dissolution of the corporation, whether voluntary or involuntary, no member shall be entitled to any distribution or division of its remaining property or its proceeds, and the balance of all money and other property received by the corporation, Hare Krishna, by the way, from any source after the payment of all debts and obligations of the corporation shall be used or distributed subject to the order of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, as provided by law exclusively for purposes within those set forth in Article 2 of this certificate and within the intendment of Section 501C of the Internal Revenue Code of 1954 and its regulations as the same now exist, or they may be hereafter amended from time to time. Fifth, the operations of the corporation are to be conducted primarily in the state of New York. Remember, this is the first one. And then Prabhupada went up to Montreal And he set up a corporation there similar. And it was that corporation ran all of the temples in Canada until I, as the legal manager of the movement during Prabhupada's time, we split the corporations into individual entities in order to protect us from lawsuits. 6, the principal place of worship of the society is intended to be located at 26 7th Avenue, City, Country, and State of New York. 7, the number of trustees of the shall be 9. 8, the names and addresses of the trustees until the first annual meeting of the corporation are followed. And here's the names: Michael Grant, Jan Oslin, and James Green. The names and addresses of the trustees until the second annual meeting are Paul Gautier, Donald Chapelain, Raymond Maris, Carl Jurgens, Raphael Balsam, and Robert Lefkowitz. The first annual meeting for the annual election of the trustees shall be on July 6, 1967 at 7 p.m. at 22nd Avenue. And we're also doing the same thing. We're holding meetings. And Yaśodā-nandana, being a former high-end paralegal, is managing everything so nicely. The matters set forth in paragraph 1st to 8 of this certificate were determined at a meeting held, and the meeting was held pursuant to due written notice as provided in section 191. So all kinds of technical things. 11, all of the subscribers to this certificate are of full age and are members in good and regular standing of the church seeking incorporation through the filing of this certificate by admission with full membership there in accordance with the rules and regulations thereof. Now, Prabhupada, again, he's setting it up. Now, in our particular group, we have rules and regulations too. If you look at the invitation to the class, you'll see a long list of things that we request people to do to be a part of this group. And not only that, if you're looking for initiation, the requirement is you have to attend 6 months of classes if a person is interested in initiation and to take up more serious service. If you don't, you can still come to the classes. But if you don't chant your rounds, if you're not following the principles, if you're not working with us in the spirit of protecting Prabhupada's legacy, it's not necessary for you to get initiated, really, because you're not doing anything except taking care of yourself. That's okay. And we encourage that too. It's a gradual process. And there's Prabhupada's name. And then it's on the 13th of July, 1966. And these are in front of the lawyer, Stephen Goldsmith. And like that, he's sworn, it's sworn before him. And there's a beautiful picture of Prabhupada. I sent it over, but we don't have it. And then another document that verifies that this was the starting point for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Inc. And we're following in his footsteps. That's it. No change. We're changing, adapting to 2025. Yes, we are. But the essence of the teachings is being maintained by the Prabhupada Disciples Association without adulteration. So just some insights for everybody today. Hare Krishna, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Look at that beautiful photograph of Śrīla Prabhupada. Doesn't he look so majestic? Hey, Ram Raghava. Quite majestic. You look a bit like Prabhupada, Prabhu. You have a look like him. I know this. I didn't say you are. I said you kind of look like him. All glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We'll carry on. We're going to have the reading and discussion of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And there's some very interesting verses today in the 6th chapter of the first canto, that Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and I never called you His Divine Grace, by the way. I don't know who thought that. I did say grace sometimes. Generally, I just call him Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu because he doesn't want me to say anything about how great he is. He hates it. It's just, look at him. He's shaking his head. All glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Nāma-Acārya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsa Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridharadhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya. Narayanam namaskritya. Naram cheva narottamam. Naram cheva narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyāsam. Devim Saraswatim Vyāsam Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam after offering respectful obeisances, 1. To the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2. To the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3. To the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4. To Śrīla Vyāsadeva, the author, from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We are reading from the original 1962 New Delhi edition. As we do every week, we will read a few selected verses from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam itself from Canto 1, Chapter 2, which explains the meaning and the transcendental benefit of hearing this powerful transcendental literature. Yadanudyasina yuktaha karmagrantini bandhanam chindanti kovidastasya na kuryat kataratim. Intelligent persons do cut off the internet of the knot of reactionary work by remembrance of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not give attention to his message? Shushrushoho sardadhanasya vasudeva kataruchihi Syan mahat sevaya vipra punyatirtha nishevanat. Or the twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all ranges of vice, a standard of great service is done, and as the result of such great service, affinity in the messages of Vasudeva is made possible. Shrinvatam svakataha Krishnaham punyasravana kirtanaham hridyantastoya badrani vidunoti suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, thus plants the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashtaprayeshu vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class, or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Tadarajastamo bhava kamalo bhadayaschaye chetaye teranaviddam stitam satviprasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is picked up in one's heart, at that time the effects of the nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankerings, etc., do disappear from one's heart, and he becomes fixed up in a mode of goodness, which makes him completely happy. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayati. Thus, when one is positively fixed up in a mode of unalloyed goodness, the enlivened-minded man affected by contact of devotional service of the Lord can positively know scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Let us proceed. Okay, let's read one more. Vidyate hridaye grantis chidyante sarva samshayaha shiyante chasya karmani drishtaye vatmanishwari. The knot of one's heart is thus pierced, and all misgivings are cut into pieces. The chain of fruitive actions are terminated, along with the seeing of oneself, the dominating factor. Let us proceed with our specific verse for today. We are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6. I believe we are on text number 14. Okay, text number 14. All its synonyms, translations, and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Text number 14. Parishranta indriya atama aham trit paritu bubukshitu snatva pitva radinadya upasprishtu gata asramaha. Parishranta, being tired of. Indriya, bodily. Atma, mentally. Aham, I. Trit paritu, being thirsty. Bubukshitu, and hungry. Snatva, taking a bath. Pitva, and drinking water also. Radi, in the lake. Nadya, of a river. Upasprishtu, being in contact with. Gataha, got relief from. Sramaha, tiredness. Translation. Thus traveling, I felt tired both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took bath in the lake of a river and drank also. I got relief from tiredness by such contact of water. Purport by His Divine Grace, Śrīla Prabhupāda. A traveling mendicant can meet the needs of body, namely thirst and hunger, by the gifts of nature, without being a beggar at the door of the householders. The mendicant, therefore, does not go at the house of householder for begging, but for enlightening him spiritually. Text number 15. Tasmin nirmanuje aranye pipalopasta ashritaha atmana atmastam atmanam yatashrutam achintayam. Tasmin, in that, nirmanuje, without any human habitation, aranye, in the forest, pipal, banyan tree, upasta, sitting under it, ashritaha, taking shelter of, atmana, by intelligence, atmanam, the super soul, atmastam, situated within myself, yatashrutam, as I did hear it from the liberated souls, achintayan, thought over. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupāda. After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in the forest without any human habitation, I began to meditate upon the supersoul situated within myself by my intelligence, as I heard it from liberated souls. Purport: one should not meditate according to one's personal whims. One should know perfectly well from the authoritative sources of scriptures, through the transparent medium of bona fide spiritual master, and by proper use of one's trained intelligence for meditating upon the supersoul dwelling within every living being. This consciousness is firmly developed by a devotee who has rendered loving service unto the Lord by carrying the orders of spiritual master. Sri Nārada Ji got contact of bona fide spiritual master, served them sincerely, and got the enlightenment rightly. Thus he began to meditate upon. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shwanyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataha Adadana Strinam Danteridam Yache Punaha Punaha Śrīmad Padam Bhoja Dulishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavato Smyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarvata Tatkripa Pikshako Nityam Tatprishta Sadkaromi Svam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In this text number 15, there's a very important point here. Prabhupada mentions in the translation of the text, I began to meditate upon the supersoul situated within myself by my intelligence as I heard it from liberated souls. And Prabhupada mentions in a purport, one should know perfectly well from the authoritative sources of scriptures, through the transparent medium of bona fide spiritual master, and by proper use of one's trained intelligence for meditating upon the supersoul dwelling within every living being. Now, this is a very important point, because we see in modern society many persons attempting some spiritual pursuits, especially the practice of hatha yoga or bodily yoga, and basically it ends up to be practically gymnastics. You would probably get a better result with a gymnastic trainer or a training coach. But to have real yoga means bhakti yoga. That is why we see in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 6, at the end of chapter 6, Krishna explains, Yoginam api sarvesham, that of all the yogis, one who constantly meditates on me is the highest yogi. Can somebody find that verse? Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, the last text of chapter 6. This is very important, because Krishna explains that of all the practitioners of yoga, that person who is engaging in meditating upon me faithfully is the highest yogi. Interestingly, the other day, a devotee sent me a very nice little clip from YouTube. Oh, here we go. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana. Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yuktatamo mataha. Prabhupada translates the verse. And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga, and the highest of all. Now, what is especially significant with this, as I was mentioning a few days ago, a devotee sent me a clip from YouTube where Śrīla Prabhupada is quoting a verse from the Padma Purana. It is described, Naham tishtami vaikunte yoginam hridayeshuva, that I do not reside in Vaikuntha, nor in the hearts of the yogis. Where does he live then? If he's not in Vaikuntha, if he's not in the heart of the, where does he live? Tatra tishtami Nārada, yatra gayanti madbhaktaha, that where my devotees are glorifying me, this is where I reside, chanting the name of Krishna. And we see throughout the various scriptures by acharyas, our previous spiritual masters, such as Sanatana Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and the Hari Bhaktivedanta, there are so many different verses explaining the same basic fundamental principles, that Lord Krishna is always present in his name. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained this nicely in the Shikshastakam, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis, that you have millions and millions of names, and Nija Sarva Shaktis, all of your potencies are explained, are present in these names. They're very important. Tatrarpita niyamita smaranena kalaha, that there's no rules, no fast, hard rules to chant these names. Nam namakari baudani jasarvi saktis tatrarpita niyamita smaranena kala itadrishita vakripa bhagavan mamapi. But I am so fortunate. Here we go. Very nice. My Lord, itadrishita vakripa bhagavan mamapi durdeva midrishami hajani nanuragaha. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupāda, my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, in your holy name, there is all good fortune for the living entity. And therefore you have many names, such as Krishna and Govinda, by which you expand yourself. You have invested all your potencies in those names. And there are no hard and fast rules for remembering them. My dear Lord, although you bestow such mercy upon the fallen conditioned souls by liberally reteaching your holy names, I'm so unfortunate that I commit offenses while chanting the holy name, and therefore I do not achieve attachment for chanting. Now, this is a perfect description of the mindset and mentality of an aspiring devotee. Of course, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking. He's Krishna himself. So there's no question of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lacking attachment for chanting the name of Krishna. But he's teaching us in a very humble and very clear manner how we should think. Not that the devotee should think, I'm a big devotee, I'm a big senior devotee, and I know so much, I have got so much association with Prabhupada. Oh, that's nice. That's your good fortune. Very good. A devotee should always think that I have no qualification. We see in the examples of our acharyas, they have expressed so many times the amazing humility. There's one conversation where Śrīla Prabhupada was explaining that when he was in New York, he says he was like a vagabond. A vagabond means that's like a hobo or a homeless person type. Of course, Śrīla Prabhupada is under, pure devotee, is always under the protection of Krishna. And we see this from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna explains, Ananyas chintayanto mam, ye janaha paryupasate, tesham nitya biyuktanam yoga kshemam vahamyaham. Those last few Sanskrit words are very important. Yoga kshemam vahamyaham. For those who are devoted to me and constantly serving me, I protect them. I carry what they lack and protect them. This is Krishna's special promise, special protection. And we have seen this, the story of Maharaj Ambarish and Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni became very angry at Maharaj Ambarish. And he offended Maharaj Ambarish, a great devotee. And although he was powerful enough to go all over the world and even to Vaikuntha, the Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Vishnu chastised him, was ready to kill him. Finally, he surrendered to Maharaj Ambarish and offered his respectful obeisances and asked for forgiveness. So the protection of Krishna is always there. We have all heard the story of Haridas Thakur. That many times Haridas Thakur used to be called Yavana Haridas. Yavana refers to being born in a Muslim family. But he was a great saint, a great devotee who was constantly chanting. Sometimes devotees express that they have difficulty chanting 16 rounds. Well, imagine if you're chanting 22 hours a day, 300,000 names per day, that's like chanting all day, all night, practically. So this was the exalted position of Haridas Thakur. So at that time, the governor in Navadvip was very upset with Haridas Thakur. And they had him flogged in 22 marketplaces. He almost died. And at the end, the guards were very worried that if you survive, they will kill us. Our task was to kill you. So Haridas Thakur, you just throw me in a Ganges. So Haridas Thakur floated all the way to Shantipur, to the house, to the bank of the river where Advaita-Acharya used to have his place. So Haridas Thakur was named by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Namacharya, the exemplary teacher of how to chant Hare Krishna. Utmost humility, utmost tolerance. Śrīla Prabhupada related the story, this is in the Prabhupada Conversation book, that during the life of his Guru Maharaj, His Divine Grace, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, the caste Goswamis of Navadvip were very upset with him because he was preaching very widely and exposing their nonsense, deviant philosophy of Brahmanism by birth, by hereditary right. They wanted to have him killed. They offered the policemen in Navadvip a bribe so that they would not do anything while the bogus caste Goswamis would try to harm Bhaktisiddhanta. But some way or other, he was protected by Krishna, and the police refused to cooperate with the bogus caste Goswamis. So there are always attempts, even during the life of Ramanujacharya, his so-called guru, some Advaitin, some Mayavadis. Oh, here we go. So he wanted this, and it's not that he is dead and gone. That is not spiritual understanding. Even ordinary living being, he does not die. Nahanyate anyamani sharire, Bhagavad Gita 2:20. And what to speak of such exalted, authorized personality like Bhaktisiddhanta? He is saying, I never feel that I'm alone. Of course, when I came to your country without any friend, without any means, practically just like a vagabond I came. But I had full faith that my Guru Maharaj is with me. I never lost this faith, and that is a fact. There are two words, Vani and Vapu. Vani means word, and Vapu means this physical body. So Vani is more important than the Vapu. Vapu will be finished. This is material body. It will be finished. That is the nature. But if we keep to the Vani, to the words of spiritual master, then we remain very fixed up. It does not matter. Just like Bhagavad Gita. It was spoken 5,000 years ago. But if you keep to the words of Krishna, then it is always fresh and guiding. Not that because Arjuna personally listened to Krishna about the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, therefore he knew it. That is not the fact. If you accept Bhagavad Gita as it is, then you should know that Krishna is present before you in his words in the Bhagavad Gita. This is called spiritual realization. It is not mundane historical incidences. So this is a very important point. because we see there is a deviant doctrine being preached by some so-called caste Brahmins, neo-caste Brahmins. I call them Guru Bandhus. In the Bhagavatam, we have in the story of Ashwatthama, Prabhupada called him, it is mentioned, that Ashwatthama is called a Brahma Bandhu. Although he was born in a family of a Brahmana, he was not qualified, not really acting as a bona fide Brahmana. So he was called a Brahma Bandhu. What we have nowadays is many persons posing and pretending to be gurus without the qualification and the authorization of being gurus. They're called Guru Bandhus. In other words, in order to be well situated on a path from a spiritual teacher, one has to behave himself and be truthful. Yesterday, during our Bhagavad Gita reading, we were reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, Text 41. Canto 1, Chapter 17, Text number 41, where Prabhupada was explaining, if a Brahmana is not truthful, all his claims as a Brahmana at once become null and void. If a sannyasi is illicitly connected with women, all his claims as a sannyasi at once become false. Similarly, if the king and the public leader are unnecessarily proud or habituated to drinking and smoking, certainly they become disqualified to discharge public welfare activities. Truthfulness is the basic principles for all religions. So this is a very important point. One has to be truthful with oneself. One has to be truthful to God, to Krishna, and one has to be truthful to the representative of Krishna. We know we've heard a conversation where Prabhupada was having with a French devotee, where Prabhupada says, I declare I am the representative of God. In Australia, Prabhupada had one conversation where he said that these books, his written books, are representative of God. So any intelligent person should very carefully study the original, unrevised, non-adulterated, non-imported teachings and books of Śrīla Prabhupada and understand the truth and not be misled by the false propaganda and the false doctrines of various individuals who mislead people and are more interested in self-aggrandizement and self-promotion than promoting the real teachings of the greatest Acharya in living history, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All glories to His Divine Grace.
Su divina grazia.
All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. Yes, the bona fide spiritual master in disciplic succession from Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and people think that there are so many gurus and they represent this disciplic succession, but this is not a fact. This is a fallacy. And we've been discussing it, Tom, in Germany, this campaign of misinformation that has been orchestrated initially by 11 people who were given the responsibility of performing Ritvik initiations after Prabhupada's disappearance in order to continue the proper presentation of the philosophy to others and focus Prabhupada as the Acharya of our movement, one who teaches by example. They do not. Bhaktividya Purna, does he teach by example? Does Radhanath teach by example? Did Gopal Krishna teach by example? Some people think. But those who actually understand the philosophy of disciplic succession from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda know these people are deviant. Tamal, Harikesh, Bhagawan, all of them, all 11 to start, and then it's expanded to 150. I thought Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, it was very interesting that we're reading this Delhi Bhagavatam. Now remember, Tom, this was written before the society was created by Śrīla Prabhupāda in New York City in 1966, in July. This was before he came to America. Where was Prabhupada? He was in India. And we all know that he had worked diligently to publish these first 3 volumes as a foundation of the teachings of Krishna consciousness to who he hoped would accept it when he traveled to America. And he brought his books in suitcases to America. See the context, please, everyone. And this is something very profound. Where was Prabhupada? Where was his consciousness back in India before the formation of the movement? I'll read it. Purport by Śrīla Prabhupāda. I'm going to read it again. Repetition of a good thing is a good thing. One should not meditate according to one's personal whims. Prabhupada said a great movement was destroyed, the Gaudiya Math, due to whimsical ways, whimsical behavior. And that is what has happened to Prabhupada's mission by these so-called gurus. One should know perfectly well from the authoritative sources of scriptures through the transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master. That bona fide spiritual master is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. So Prabhupada's expressing that he's acknowledging his, and by proper use of one's trained intelligence. So he's telling us, I've been trained by my spiritual master for meditating upon the supersoul dwelling within every living being. Prabhupada was living in Vrindavan at Radha Damodar temple, everyone, meditating, writing this philosophy for future generations. This consciousness is firmly developed by a devotee who has rendered loving service to the Lord by carrying out the orders of the spiritual master. What spiritual master, Rochisha, is he speaking about? What spiritual master is it? He's speaking about his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Prabhupada is revealing to us how to be Krishna conscious by his own practical example. It's right here. It's self-evident if you just read it, not change it. And this, of course, it's interesting. Look at banyan tree up here in the verse. It's spelled incorrectly, and there's other different errors, but there's no contamination of the truth. It's very easy to see how Prabhupada is guiding his future disciples on how to practice Krishna consciousness and not become Gaudiya Math Part 2, which is what the mission has become now. Sri Nārada Muni got contact of a bona fide spiritual master, served them sincerely. That's what Prabhupada did, and got the enlightenment rigidly. It's through devotional service that you become advanced. And Yaśodā-nanda brought it up in his reading. You have spiritual realization, not mental concoction, not mental speculation, spiritual, genuine spiritual understanding that you are the eternal servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. And that is the formula, Tom, for becoming realized. There must be surrender. There is no other way. If you don't surrender, you'll get some understanding, but there will not be depth. There's a great opportunity here for all of us, every person. especially in the Prabhupada Disciples Association, because this association preaches Krishna consciousness, the truth of the matter. Vijaya Pandit, and you can repeat to this group, without compromise. This whole business of compromise, this is Gaudiya Math Part 2. Why? Because you can have a temple, you can have your own apartment, you can get your own private vehicle. You don't have to pay for it. You just pretend you're a guru. Posturing, pretending like that. And in this way, you fool innocent people. And this fooling business is going on. It's unfortunate. And a lot of people can't see it. I know my friend Vijaya Pandit, he struggled with other people in Italy to try to tell them the truth, and they condemn him. Eh, Prabhu? They condemn you because you're telling the truth. And they're misled. They are misled, not you. This is going on, unfortunately, everyone. But we should be aware of the truth. And this repetition of it, just one last point. People say, well, you're finding fault. No, we're not. This particular verse and purport today is not fault finding, it's truth finding. And if you can't understand the truth, then come to a meeting like we conduct and get the proper understanding, and then march forward wherever you are in the world and do your service without compromise. This compromising, this is the business of the politician, right? They go ahead, they compromise everything so they still have a job. So the guru, these bogus gurus, they go ahead and they compromise. What have we got here, Prabhu? Read this out for us. Ram Raghava, read it. I can't see it from here.
Okay, this is from a letter, July 27, 1973. When my Guru Maharaj was present, even big scholars were afraid to talk with his beginning students. My Guru Maharaj was called Living Encyclopedia. He could talk with anyone on any subject. He was so learned. So we should be like that as far as possible. No compromises. Rama, Krishna, avatars, yogis, everyone was enemy to Guru Maharaj. He never compromised. Some God brothers complained that this preaching was chopping technique and it would not be successful. But we have seen that those who criticized, they fell down. For my part, I have taken up the policy of my Guru Maharaj, no compromise. All these so-called scholars, scientists, philosophers who do not accept Krishna are nothing more than rascals, fools, lowest of mankind.
Yes, you'll hear me speak sometimes on the classes. And what do I usually say, Tom, about other people that are in this world? They're insane. They're crazy. Oh, well, that's kind of harsh. Crazy in the sense that they're living on the mental platform of speculation and false ego. That's what it means to be crazy. You think you're the body. You think you'll be happy in this world. But there is no happiness here. There's only trouble. Look what's happening. This is a very profound time that we're in. Very. And for Vijaya Pandit and his group in Italy, just so you know, this situation in Los Angeles is shocking. Like there's tens, right now they have 11,000 houses have been burnt down to the ground, to ashes. The reality of the material world is you're born in this world with nothing, and you leave with nothing. The Sanskrit term is nirmama. Nothing is mine. Now, that's the case for everybody, but other people that have things, they think this is mine. But here is a stark reminder, nirmama, Nothing is mine. They have nothing. I see them being interviewed, Ram Raghava, on the social media. And do you think that anyone in this experience really knows what's happened to themselves? No, they haven't got a clue. That's how shallow people in this material world are. Very, very uninformed about the philosophical reality of the material world and karma. Karma is a very complex subject matter, very difficult to understand, actually. But this material world does punish the living entities for sinful activities. So much animal slaughter, killing billions of animals yearly to eat. Oh, so much. Every time you look on the medias, they advertise what? Alcohol. Look in Germany. What do they do there? They drink their faces off. They're a bunch of lushes. Oh yeah, but I'm happy. Oh yeah. With a bottle of beer? Are you crazy? These people, this material world, we know it. You know it, Tom. I know it. You try to tell your father what the reality is. He gets mad at you. Hey, don't do that. Tom's 20. I'm not going to speak details, but he's 25 years old. He is a father who's fairly successful, but whatever. He tries to help his father, but his father gets mad at him because his son is trying to teach him, like Prahlad Maharaj is trying to teach Hiranyakashipu. So this world is like that. And Bhaktisiddhanta, he's saying this point of compromise. You compromise, you will destroy yourself. So there's no compromise. Yaśodā-nandana, could you further comment? Thank you.
Well, very important issues are being raised here. Because in the material world, we see there is always some kind of problem. For those of you who may be following occasional news, last year in Turkey, there was a big, massive earthquake, one of these 7.3, 7.5 earthquake, and entire towns, not just buildings, entire towns were completely devastated. And nobody could predict that. Nobody could predict that this was going to happen. And we see in Japan also, they have all very severe earthquakes. I remember one time we were in Japan in a hotel, and the devotees were in Sankirtan. And what happened is that in Japan, it's in an area where there is a lot of earthquakes. So the buildings are made to basically not break and fall down. They will sway with the earthquake. But it's a pretty scary experience that you're in your room on the upper floor of the hotel, and all of a sudden, your whole building is swaying left and right, and you can't stop that. You can't control that. So this is a big problem in the material world. It's just like where Vishwakarma live in Canada. There's places in Canada which are brutally cold. If you go north of Toronto in the northern areas of places like Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Ontario, Quebec, it gets very, very cold. And you cannot stop that. In other words, material nature is so powerful that you cannot stop. Just like in Italy, there's a place called Pompeii. It was a historical event in AD 79 where there was a big volcano, Vesuvius. The volcano erupted and hot lava flowed in the whole town. It's a fact that even many archaeologists in Italy, in Pompeii, they found people just exactly, they were frozen in time, covered with frozen molten ashes, died on the spot. Can somebody stop it? Somebody doesn't like the volcano to explode? No. In America, several years back, there was a volcano called Mount St. Helens. Very similar situation, and it was not quite as severe as Mount Vesuvius in Pompeii, but it's still the same problem. The point is that in the material world, you cannot stop these miseries. The only thing you can do is the reason why we have these miseries is because we have this material body. That is why every time Śrīla Prabhupada was confronted, why don't you do some social work? Why don't you open schools? Why don't you open hospitals? Why don't you open clinics? Why don't you just feed children? No, Prabhupada said, no. We give the highest social work by giving them the knowledge by which they don't have to take a birth again here, by which they can be freed from the bodily conception of life and go back to Godhead. The reason there is suffering is because we have this body. Why do we suffer? Because of past karma. Past karma means past activities which come to result. The fruits are coming now. Just like if you plant a fruit tree in the fall, in California, in this area, there's a lot of people that plant fruit trees in the fall while there's going to, and in the winter, there'll be a lot of moisture. And in the spring, the fruit tree will come out very nicely. So this is the same basic fundamental principle. The Acharya, the liberated soul, gives the knowledge by which people can come back home, back to God, and solve this problem, solve this karma problem, solve all of these fires and tornadoes and very cold and very hot. All of these things are due to having a material body. And anybody can start the process of solving this problem by the process of bhakti. That is the real solution to all the problems. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yes, absolutely. And I really wanted to refer to this wonderful quote from that Ram Raghava has put up on the screen here, and just make a quick comment on it. You have to deal tactfully in your preaching. Yes, very important. How you speak. Do not compromise the truth, but speak palatably so that he does not reject it, but accepts it. That is preaching. There's a certain skill. Now, the first thing that we should look at, Ram Raghava, is who are you preaching to? Now, in my particular situation, I'm speaking about my personal experience. I have about 12 people that I'm cultivating to become bhaktas. I'm not making them devotees, but I'm speaking to them on an ongoing basis. I look at my phone log, I see who I've missed or who I've talked over the week. I try to keep in contact with various people. Now, I may say to them, everybody is crazy, but explain it. What do you mean by that? Not make them feel inferior or stupid, but explain it to them. So that is the art of preaching. As some people have a skill, like even selling, it's the art of selling. It's a professional way to convince somebody to say buy a $250,000 BMW. There's an art to it. It's not that automatically somebody shows up, I want to buy the car and I've got my money, will you sell it to me? And the person goes, okay, sign up. It doesn't work that way. There's a skill. There's actually 5 steps in selling professionally. And you have to follow those steps. Otherwise, the sale, even though it's called in technical, in the BMW or Mercedes-Benz world, a laydown, where you show up, Ram Raghava, in the showroom, and you've got your money. Here's the money. Have you got a deal? No. You have to go through the 5 steps of selling. So there's an art to preaching, yes, tactfully. And you have to know when to say or when not to say something, and how to hit hard. Sometimes I hit hard on people. Yes, I do, especially my friends. I hit Joe Felice, who's on our calls. I've been his friend for 35 years. Oftentimes during the week, I call him an idiot. You're an idiot, Joe. But we've been a friend for 35 years. He knows I love him as as a spirit soul, as a devotee, as a person that I care about very much, him and his wife, Karen, who's also cultivating Krishna consciousness. There's another person here, if you look at the, on the screen here, there's a phone number. Now this person, he's been coming to our classes for 1.5 years by his phone. And I've spoken to him a few times this week, actually every day this week, because we're discussing his plans to serve Krishna. And I've called him over and over again, you're a loser. I'm pushing him. You can't close anything. You think you're some kind of big shot, but you can't close. He gets upset. Oh, I'm not a loser. Well, that's okay. I know you're not. I know you're a winner. Actually, he's a very amazing person who bought all the books when he came into my ashram. He was drawn to the Bhagavatam Yaśodā. He wanted it. He had been searching for truth. And when he finally got the books, all of them, he called me yesterday. He said, he had heard me reading from the Nectar of Devotion. He says, I need to get that book, Nectar of Devotion. So I'm looking through my library today. I haven't had a chance to get a copy of the Nectar of Devotion for him so that he can also read it. So there are ways and means. You have to be expert. You have to be expert. How can you be expert if you have no students to practice on? That's my question. In other words, you're by yourself, but you may suggest, well, you have to be careful, but you don't preach to anybody anyway. You're just in your own world. Get some students, get some people, work with them, fail with them, win with them, cultivate them. And in this way, you can become siksha, a person that is knowledgeable in this philosophy and can convey it to other people and convince them, and I don't want to get in a controversy, and make them a devotee. How do you make it? We're not making devotees, we're serving our spiritual master. And we clarified that the other day. Making a devotee was meant as a group term for temples. How many devotees have you made in the temple? Because everybody was cooperating. So our group is like that. We're making devotees as a group to offer at the lotus feet of our spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupāda. Dharma Bhavana in Dallas, Texas. Please, if you could give your comment. And we'll get to other people's questions and comments.
Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you. Yeah. Just on this fire in California, Los Angeles, it's hard not to think about it because it's so vast and so such an amazing part of material nature that's causing punishment to people. Just reflecting how one person may have started it, maybe it started naturally. I don't see how you can figure it out, but either way, we reflect back how when Prabhupada trained his leading secretaries not to go visit the God brothers and different people in India because they can give you contamination. They cannot help you. And so just thinking how when the devotees decided one or two or three got together to get advice and consultation about what to do after Prabhupada departed, it can become different by going against Prabhupada's instructions. Now all around the whole world, there's so much trouble in the Vaishnava societies, so much confusion and problems will come about just from disobeying Prabhupada's instructions. And probably a whole lot more can be said, but I was just comparing it to the fire where one person might deliberately set her to make a mistake, or devotees may make some error by going against the Acharya's instructions. And it's kind of hard to imagine. It's just maybe some devotees cannot understand, but it's such a problematic thing to correct because it may take a long, long time that such a disaster has happened. So those are my 2 bits. Thank you, Haribo.
Well, the fact of the matter is, the material world is compared to a prison house. We're all in the prison house of the material body. the material mind. The intelligence is contaminated. And we are motivated by false ego, perception of ourselves. We all are. And Prabhupada has basically tried to elevate us, like he said here in the purport, by carrying out the orders of the spiritual master. And by doing that, gradually serving, step by step, we start to get realization of what the situation is here, which people in general have no idea, like these fires. If you see them being interviewed, the people, they're like, I don't know what happened. 5 minutes ago I had something and now I have nothing. Well, did you understand anything about the laws of karma? No. Do you see what it means when you break the laws of karma? Prabhupada gives the example of the police officer. He stops the person on the road and says to them, oh, by the way, you're driving over the speed limit. And the person responds, well, I didn't realize. So people think, well, I can break these laws of karma, but you're still subjected to the reactions of those sinful activities according to the principles of Vedic teaching. These laws are irrefutable. You cannot get out of them. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, further, if you could explain.
Well, we've often mentioned that there's three basic fundamental miseries for living beings in this world, and this has nothing to do with Christian, Jews, Buddhists, or Hindus, Muslims, or anybody. Like one time Prabhupada was having a discussion, and somebody said, well, this is your Hindu. Prabhupada said, no, this has nothing to do with Hindu or Indian. This is universal application that everybody is suffering birth, death, old age, and disease. As soon as you get a material body, there will be three kinds of miseries by the law of material nature. It has nothing to do with being Hindu, Indian, Muslim, Christian, Jew, Buddhist. This is universally applicable to everyone. And the teachings of Bhagavad Gita is to make a solution to this. You can't stop material nature. Just like the state has prison houses, detainment facilities for criminals. Now, the state doesn't like to spend so much money on, because it costs money to maintain these facilities, but they know there will always be a criminal element in society that needs to be separated from the rest.
Yeah.
Why are we here in this world suffering is because of rebellion against the authority of God. That is why you have great prophets and Krishna's son and Krishna himself and great saints and great acharyas come to this world to teach people how to get out of the suffering. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that if you surrender to me, follow my instruction, you don't have to worry anymore. You will be relieved from all of this. Krishna will give you protection. God will give you protection. And what is that protection? This is the miseries. Adhyatmika klesha. Klesha means misery in Sanskrit. Adhyatmika means miseries due to our own bodies. Adibhautika klesha, miseries due to other living entities, mosquitoes or insects or animals or envious living beings. That it happens. It's natural. We've all experienced this. And just like we saw in Los Angeles, adidaivika klesha, miseries due to the influence of the demigods. Of course, modern society doesn't believe in demigods, but we know from the Vedas that there is superior arrangement. There are personalities in the higher planets that control the rain, the light, the heat, the wind. When there's too much wind, is due to Vayu, is a demigod who is in charge of all the wind throughout the universe. When there's too much rain, it is due to Indra, a powerful demigod in the heavenly planets, the king of heaven, who basically controls this. And there are so many different demigods controlling. Just like I was referring in Italy in AD 79, in Italy, in Pompeii, there was a massive volcano that it basically swept to the whole time, and lava, hot lava, killed so many people. This is an example of adidaivika klesha. What we saw in Los Angeles, this is the same. Misery is due to the influence of higher living beings, higher planets. And when human society individually and collectively breaks these laws of karma, engages in sinful activities, killing children in the womb, abortion, meat eating, illicit sexual activity, intoxication, there are reactions both individually and collectively. That is why in the Vedas it is recommended for anyone to stop these activities. All of this nonsense, intoxication, gambling, unnecessary killing of animals, slaughtering of animals, all of these things produces karma. It's called vikarma, bad karma that will result in suffering in the future. And the first thing one has to do is try to follow these principles. No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. And then one can clean his life up and see things in a proper perspective. That is very simple. It's not complicated. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
I thought that was a very good point, Raghava, that Yaśodā made about Vayu being in charge of the wind. You know what's happening, everyone, in Los Angeles? There is the winds of Santa Ana. I think that's the name. I knew a song by Stanley Clark that called that. It really connected because he's from out there. But it's a hurricane. Now, when these winds blow at 140, 175 miles an hour, it proliferates the fires. And they become uncontrollable. So, is the demigod in charge of wind happy that this is happening? Here's another thing, Ram Raghava. Think about this. Indra is in charge of rain. How much rain have they had in the last 4 months in Los Angeles? 1.5 inches of rain. So not is it over rain, there's no rain. And therefore everything is combustible because there's no way to prevent the foliage from exploding when the fire is running, the wind is running. Can anybody explain that? Isn't it a devotee? They have no idea. Now there's all kinds of conspiracy principles that are coming out. That there's spaceships, there's people from other planets, there's attack internally by people there, the homeless people. They're putting gasoline in the sewers. There are people, arsonists all over the place setting fires. Well, the conclusion is this is Kali Yuga in full display. And it's shocking. It's really unfortunate and tragic. And we, of course, we don't celebrate it. It's a terrible thing. And we hope that all living entities, all of us, are learning from this. I know it's on my mind every day. I can't help it. You're seeing all of this. It's terrible. And it's tragic, but it's karmic. And that's the reality of it. And we want to thank everybody. I wanted to say, did you have something you want to say, Ram Raghava, just before we end up?
Yes, but I wanted to share a couple of things. Do I have time to share two?
Yeah, go ahead, please. By all means, you're the host.
First of all, thank you very much for adding that important detail about being tactful. Look at who you're talking to. In other words, look at your audience. I've attended many professional talks, and usually the good speakers always ask who is from what background, so they take that into consideration before they talk. That was one thing. The other thing was Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu mentioned planting fruit trees. And it was interesting that in the purport to text 14 in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam reading we did today, Śrīla Prabhupāda says a traveling mendicant can meet the needs of body, namely thirst and hunger, by the gifts of nature without being a beggar at the door of the householders. So in Vedic culture, it was considered pious to plant fruit trees. Mm-hmm. So that would be especially important for all people, but especially for saintly people who were out traveling. They could survive on eating fruits from the trees and, of course, water from the unpolluted rivers, as long as they weren't polluted. And the third point is this mentioned that we have to execute devotional service under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, under their training, under his training. And in yesterday's class, we read in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verse 9, how Krishna says that if you cannot think of me always, then follow the regulative principles of devotional service. So I also wanted to share something from the Nectar of Devotion. Let me see if I can pull it up. This is from chapter 2, the first stages of devotion. The regulative principles of devotional service are part of sadhana bhakti. So in Nectar of Devotion, it says, now this sadhana bhakti, or practice of devotional service, can also be divided into two parts. The first part is called regulative principles. One has to follow these different regulative principles by the order of the spiritual master on the strength of authoritative scriptures, and there can be no question of refusal. That is called Vaidhi, or regulated. One has to do it without any argument. Another part of sadhana bhakti is called Raganuga. Raganuga refers to the point at which, by following the regulative principles, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of natural love. And here Śrīla Prabhupāda gives a wonderful example for all of us. For example, a person engaged in devotional service may be ordered to rise early in the morning and offer aratrika, which is a form of deity worship. In the beginning, by the order of his spiritual master, one rises early in the morning and offers aratrika, but then he develops real attachment. When he gets this attachment, he automatically tries to decorate the deity and prepare different kinds of dresses and thinks of different plans to execute his devotional service nicely. Although it is within the category of practice, this offering of loving service is spontaneous. So the practice of devotional service, sadhana bhakti, can be divided into two parts, namely regulative and spontaneous. So we have to be very careful and follow the regulative principles very carefully in order to advance to the next stage, whenever that comes. Just wanted to share those points.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Very enlightening. And as we always do, we bring as much of Prabhupada's teachings to the audience in our weekly programs. And if you want to refer to other programs, you can subscribe to our YouTube page, Hare Krishna Society. And we're going to have a campaign. Please try to get people, all of you, to get people to subscribe to our channel and get a chance to get a clear understanding of our philosophy without any compromise. And as well, we're going to be launching, as I said, a 24-hour streaming service, a channel. And we're forming the technology team. Ram Raghava is going to be a part of it, and all kinds of good devotees in our group who want to do more. You know, they want to be active. They want to engage themselves in helping others understand the purpose of human life without adulteration or a change of Prabhupada's teachings, and not for personal motivation. Even though Ram Raghava looks a little bit like Śrīla Prabhupāda, he still doesn't want to play the role of being Prabhupada, but a teacher, someone that can help others take this up. And that's our business, all of us, each one of us here. There's a new lady that's been coming from Argentina, and she's attending the classes. It's tremendous. I love it when I see people from around the world joining us, because this is our network and this is how we'll continue to expand. And we want more people to be a part of it. And we need them in order to connect them to our upcoming Hare Krishna Society TV station online. We'll have Prabhupada lectures, Prabhupada chanting, Prabhupada kirtans, Prabhupada letters, all different things. If you have any content that you want to share to be in the channel, let us know. If you also have an internet skill, a technology skill, either you have it or you want to be a part of it or learn how to join us, please get in touch with us, and we'll build this tool for spreading Krishna consciousness using these modern facilities that Krishna has provided us and dovetail them in Krishna's service. Your money, your intelligence, your time, your service is well appreciated in this mission. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda and the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We'll move forward with 2 minutes and 54 seconds of chanting of Hare Krishna, led by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and we're full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks everybody for participating in this lively reading, this discussion. Thank Vishwakarma Prabhu in Hamilton, Ontario, Ram Maghava Prabhu in Georgia, Nilesh Sharma in Florida, Bhakta Ram Singh in Norton, California, and Oroville, Joe Felici in Hamilton, Ontario, and Bhakta Tom in Germany. And thank you for your lively correspondence on various important issues with regards to missing documentation from 1977. And our good friend Vijay Pandit and the lively people there in Douaeville, Italy. Grazie mille, grazie mille. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thanks, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.